Hey guys, WeQuilt Studio here, and I am having so much fun spinning seams. I can't tell you, I did not even realize that we could spin even irregular seams like this. And I want to show you what I found out that might be a little helpful, little tip here. Because when I got to this spinning of these seams, I got a little confused for a minute there, and then I had an aha moment, but I'll show you what I mean. Um, in my previous video, if anybody saw it, I had noticed that the tip off for us on which way to spin our seams, you just look at, say, for instance, this seam here. You look at the stitches that are, coming into this intersection, because if you've pressed everything alternate directions, like that's why people usually press to the dark side, because the darks and the lights are usually alternating, right? So you're pressing in alternate directions. So as long as you do that, then this seam that's pointing to the intersection is your tip off on which way to start spinning. So, like for instance, this is pressed this way, and the gray is pressed that way. Well, then if we're going, this way, we're traveling in a circle, and then we hit the gray and we're still traveling in a circle. So we're spinning in a clockwise direction right here. But notice as I'm spinning, and this is one of the light bulb moments. As I'm spinning, I come off the beige and go on to the red. I don't stay on the beige and try to spin this beige one, okay? Because that's what I tried to do on here. I was on the red and I came around, and since this is an irregular, it's a whatever, it's not a square. Got a lot of seams coming in here. It's still 4 pieces, but this one is not a 90-degree angle. But anyways, I was on the red, and since the red extends out so far into a point there, you can kind of see how it extends out. I was taking my finger and staying on the red. And then I was like, oh, this isn't going to spin, right? And then I was like, no, I have to come off the red and go on the black, and then on the beige, and then on to the gray. Like, you don't want to spin on the same color and everything will open up, the way it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, then of course you just take I'll show you on this one, you take this outside stitching that's in the seam allowance, you release it. It should release if you didn't back stitch. You release it on that side and on that side. And it won't come out because this is the last thing we stitched and it holds everything intact. So I thought that was so funny that, I got a little nervous that I couldn't spin this, and that's because I stayed on the red. And then I was like, well, why didn't I have that problem with with like, say, a regular 4 patch or even a 9 patch or whatever? Why didn't I have that issue? And it's because I think just naturally I came off the beige and into the red. Like, I didn't stay in this little circle here, but because this extended out so much, I got a little confused, right? And I'll spin this one in a minute. The other thing I noticed is And this is really cool. Okay, you know how when everything is alternating, like you could see the beige here is kind of high, and then the gray is low, and then the red is high. Okay, so they alternate. And then the same thing up here, it's opposite now. This one's high, or this one is low, and then the black is high, the beige is low. Okay, and so on, and the gray is high. Well, there's a diagonal thing going on here. So if this is low, then its diagonal counterpart is low. Okay, and then as we move down the line, if this is low, then its diagonal counterpart is low. That was very cool, and I could see it clearly on just a 4-patch or a 9-patch or what have you. The other cool thing is you can see that every one of these little blocks that we see here is, let's take the beige for instance, this little flap is folded back on itself, back onto the beige. And you would think that would cause a lot of bulk, but it doesn't, because yes, it's folded back on the beige, but then there's only one layer of red underneath it. Okay, well, there's this, but it just fits right in there. And then the same thing with the red. This little flap is the red folded on itself. This little flap is the gray folded on itself. And then I know you can't see this one, but there's a flap here of the black folded on itself. So they're all folded on themselves, which is really cool, I think. And I just love it. I'm so excited about this because now everything is going to nest and be flat and easy to long arm and everything. So when I got to this one, then, like I said, I got a little nervous, but I mean, you know, everything was pressed in the right direction. So that's why and then I realized, oh, that's because you don't make your circle and try and push the red, okay? You go off the red and onto the black. So, and then I was like, okay, well, where are my colors all folded on themselves in this? This is like a 4-patch. Lo and behold, they are. The gray is folded on itself. The beige is folded on itself. The black is folded on itself, and even the red, but it's hard to see it, you know, but yes, indeed, the red is folded on itself. So this is just so much fun. I can't believe that something this silly is getting me excited, but I think you quilters out there know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and spin this one, and I'll show you what I mean about the red. So I'll try and do it without opening the seam. Now on these, I used a 2.0 millimeter stitch length. So they might not pop open. I might have to release these, but I'll try it. So this one and this one are supposed to release when I do this. So you don't press anything. If you recall, you just open it up. And I've been kind of, wherever there's stitching, I've been using that to spread it open a little because I figure I won't really stretch it too much. Okay. Move this out of the way. Let me try to get this in the center. Okay. So I'm going to do, just like I said before, I'm going to start with the red. And if I come around with my finger, see the red is pressed that way. So I know I have to go in a clockwise direction. And this one was clockwise too, this one here. But the one next to it is counterclockwise because everything is alternate. So this is counterclockwise, this is clockwise. And then this is counterclockwise and so on. And that's how it would be. So everything is alternating. It's so cool. So anyways, getting back to this. So let's start on the red. And if I come around onto the black, not onto this red, but just the black, if I keep my finger and spin, okay, that black is going down, so I'll keep my thumb there. Then I come around to the gray, go off the gray, beige, come around to the beige, go off the beige onto the gray and spin the gray. Okay, so now I see I have them going in opposite directions, my thumb and this finger. Nothing has separated yet. So let me see if I can help it along. So I know the gray has to go down and the black has to go down. How can the gray and black go down? The only way they could go down is if they separate from their adjacent partners. Okay, the black has to separate from the red and the gray has to separate from the beige. And you could see my stitching did not come undone. So maybe since I use such a small stitch length, they're not going to come undone. So let me grab my seam ripper here. Now I'm not going to take them out. I'm just going to release them because you want them to stay long. So this was the original stitch that kept the beige and the gray together. So notice my blade. I don't want my blade as I pull up. My blade is the other way. Okay, so that one's released just up to this line. And then this one, two millimeters. Oh, did I cut that? No. A 2 millimeter stitch length is harder to get out, you know. And I could probably just take it and separate it, but I want to kind of keep everything still together. You know, I don't want to put a fold in the fabric because this is starched, then it won't. I want to see it come open. I can't get that. That last stitch, I'm just shredding everything. I guess I'll let that go. So anyways, we came around, the black is down, I'll put my thumb there, come on to the gray, and now you can see, when I pulled the gray down, you can see this arrowhead shape coming into existence. And you can see where everything needs to go. If the gray has to go down, then it's actually, you know, this red is right behind it, so the red has to go down too. And then if the black has to go down, the beige is behind it, the beige has to go down too. And then there it is. There's your arrowhead. Okay. And then you could just finger press that. And then when you turn it over, you don't really want to press these with your finger while it's wrong side up. So you just turn it over then, and you know now what's the high side, okay? It's the high side. You can feel it. The red is high. So if the red is high, then its diagonal counterpart is going to be high. So you can come over here with your finger, your thumb or whatever in the center and just, finger press that. Maybe hold it here so you don't stretch it. And finger press that. And then this beige is the high then, like I said, because it's diagonal. I have to quit using my fingernail because that's how you stretch this bias. I have to just use the palm of my finger to finger press and hold it as you go so you don't stretch it too much. Because my beige is, I think I said in my other video, my beige, you could see I have like a pleat line there. That's because my beige has too much starch on it. So I have to really do this with the iron on the beige. It's too stiff. It's like parchment paper. So, but yeah, so then I would take it to the iron, and let me see if the iron is hot. And I would take the tip of the iron there and then turn it around and do these and this. And like I said, this one, I might have to take the iron here and soften it, or take the iron and just put the edge of the iron right here and soften this. And then once it's soft, then I can flatten it. So that's probably what I'll do. So let's go over there. So here it is. I'll turn it over, and like I said, I'll put the tip right there. And I don't want to press too much because I don't want to stretch the fabric, and then just turn it over. Don't even press anything on that side. Now I know this one was okay, so I can just take it, and I can do the same thing on the red. Just take this edge and ride it along there. That softens the edge. And then once the edge is soft, then I can go ahead and flatten that. And then now this is the high side. So I'm going to just turn it. And again, I'm going to take this edge of the iron and just run it along there gently, just to kind of soften that crease since I overstarched it. And then looks like I can that's better. So yeah, I'm having so much fun now. I just want to keep making I don't know, half square triangles or whatever, 9 patches or just anything. I mean, I'm spinning everything. I even spun this. These were stripes, those stripes that I had. They were like this. There were 2 of them. And it was just a unit, a square unit, where I decided to try and use a thin strip. But then I didn't like it. I like when they're all the same size, because then the center of the point comes, or the seam comes to the point down here. Since this is so narrow, the seam is offset. But anyways, I decided to take the 2 of them and put them together I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And when I did I spun those as well, you know, because everything was pressed. I did have to repress one of them to be in the opposite direction, but then they spun perfectly. And notice it looks a little different than this one. Okay, it's just a little bit different. It's the same shape. You just can't see. See the black point, and it's just that we've got the same color on both sides. So this one's not a point. This is just straight, just like the red is just the underneath one. That's like a 45-degree angle, right? It's half of a 90. On this one, you could see all four of them because we've got 4 different colors. Now, this little block here was made by cutting off the corners off of this strip set unit. And then, you know, once I cut off all the corners and then cut the box or L shape out of the top, that's how I got that fox shape. So this one in particular, though, was actually cut off of this fox. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see the difference. Let's see, I'd have to zoom out. And you might be able to see the difference in the 2 foxes. I don't really care for this colorway with the 2 colors right diagonally from each other, you know, and the black on the end. But I kept making a mistake with it at the beginning. So this was taken from this one, I think. So it would have been, say, it would have been cut off right there. And then there on that side. So you'd get, you know, the 2 from the top corner, and then you'd get 2 more from the bottom corner, just like you see here. And again, the seams on these, even the foxes in the back, they're all spun, just like a 4-patch or a 9-patch. So, you know, you would take these off and you would take the 2 bottom ones, and they lock together because their seams were all pressed correctly. So they would lock together. And, well, you would sew them on the hypotenuse, the longer side, so that they come like that. So I should hold it this way and lock it. And then you would just stitch along there. And once they're stitched, once you've got, you know, 1 corner, you'd have to have 4 of these. So you only get 2 of these corner units. You know, these corner units, you only get 2 of them per fox that you do. That's why in my really long video about this, I actually have a strip set that's really long. It's like 10 inches long, and there's 2 of them, one for the top and one for the bottom color orders. And those 2 strip sets are enough to give you the 4 corners. So you can actually make a real block out of this, and this turns into then the pinwheel block. Now this one, I don't see it on here, because this one was taken from the box that was stitched incorrectly. So this, the way the black and the beige are situated is, it's not even on here. So this one was one that I actually did correctly. And so it would have been taken from this box. So like when these two go together, now you can see the black and the beige here, black and beige, and then the red and the gray on that one, and so on. So, but this pinwheel, this seam is spun, and so are these, of course, like I showed you at the beginning on these little corner blocks. So when I turn it around, you can see all the beauty of the spun seams, and I'm just like in heaven, right? It's just amazing. So the center is spun and it follows all the rules. It's actually spun because you want to take these outer seams, the seams that are on top, those are your leaders, and they're telling me to spin it in that direction. So that's counterclockwise. So that's the way these are spun. And then, you know, here's these arrowheads for when I put the two, these two corners together. And then before that, here's the 4-patch from when I actually did my strip set. Just like there's the 4-patch on the fox. So like they're all in here on this spin wheel block. And I'm not sure if I would like make a bunch of these and have a whole new quilt or what. You know, maybe every other block would be this, because this is a lot of work, and then you have to match up the pinwheels and then trim off the excess because these little things have to be exactly the right size. But when you lock them in, when you lock in these seams, if these little squares aren't the same size, you can trim them, and you can trim them to the number that you want, the exact number. So this is just a work of art. I just love it. I just love it. I love them all. And I even thought about taking this and up here cutting an L shape just like I cut the fox. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I can't decide. I'm just having so much fun out. It's like I'm never going to finish this quilt now because I'm having too much fun with it. Just, you know, being creative, and that's like the whole part of it. That the funnest part of it is just how creative we can be, and just sometimes you, once it's done, it's like, oh, it's done. Now what? So anyways, guys, I hope that I've inspired you to just get out there and break all the rules and just be a rebel and have lots and lots of fun, because that's what it's all about, you know, just having fun and just let your creative mind just go berserk. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.